Dual cab utes are big business, and there are more variants and derivatives on sale now than ever before. People are spending more on their 4x4 pickups than ever too. So we've got a trio of high-end offerings that are designed to work hard, whether it's on-road, off-road, on the school run, or on the holiday adventure. The three models we have here are the all-new Mercedes-Benz X-Class Power, which is the company's first foray into double cab ute territory. It's here so we can see how it fares against two well-known names in the marketplace. The current flagship Ford Ranger Wildtrak, which is selling in big numbers, and the newly added Toyota Hilux Rugged X, a more off-road ready interpretation of the popular SR5 dual cab. I said they're all high-end, but what kind of money are we talking? Well, these are the prices at the time of testing, and all three are the highest specs you can get, and all are fitted with automatic transmissions. It won't just be me testing these utes either. I've got adventure editor Marcus Kraft here to help me come to a decision over which is the best of these utes across our rigorous testing criteria. But first, let me run you through how each of these three utes stacks up for interior comfort and as a day-to-day driver. The Hilux sets no new standards in the ute class in terms of the way it drives, but it does feel solid on the road. The ride is the firmest of these three, feeling the most jittery at the back end with nothing in the tray, but the steering offers decent feel. It's just a little bit heavy. The engine doesn't quite offer the same levels of refinement as its competitors in this test. It is quite noisy, and in this company it feels pretty slow as well. But the transmission does a decent job of harnessing the power, even if there isn't that much there. The interior of the Hilux doesn't feel quite as premium as its price tag suggests it should. In fact, when you compare it to the other two utes here, it feels a little bit cheap. And it misses out on some important things. There's no smartphone mirroring technology, and it doesn't have a digital speedo, which, come on, it's 2018. But the fit and finish of the Hilux is excellent, and the fit for purpose is pretty good too. The X-Class may have a wider track than some of its competitors, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it's got a firmer grip on the road as a result. In fact, it doesn't quite feel as tied down as some of the other Mercedes-Benz commercial products. The steering's a bit slow, especially in roundabouts, but at highway pace, it's reasonably trustworthy. The coil spring rear end doesn't move the game on in terms of feeling settled with nothing in the tray, but it's reasonably sorted. As for the engine, well, it's fine. The transmission can get a little bit confused at times, and while it's not fast, it is faster than the Toyota. As for the interior, we expected it to be a little bit better. The test car that we've got, the glove box falls out in your hand, and the fit and finish in some areas just isn't good enough. And that's the thing, it doesn't necessarily feel like a true Mercedes-Benz. There are some nice touches like the C-Class steering wheel and the finishes across the dashboard which look nice, but it feels a bit like a parts bin vehicle to me. One thing that it does have is Mercedes-Benz safety credentials. It's the only ute at the time we're filming this with auto emergency braking available, and it's across the range. You can read more about the full safety specs of each of these vehicles in the review. The Ford Ranger set the benchmark several years ago for interior tech and finish, and it still remains the standard setter, especially at this price point. The trim looks and feels special in the Wildtrak, setting it apart in this trio, and it's the most practical of these three too. The good news gets even better when it comes to the way the Ranger drives. It has the best steering in the ute segment, not just in the way that it pivots through corners, but just the all-round usability of it. It's really good at high speed, it's really easy to park because the steering gets light at low speeds. It's nearly perfect for a ute. The ride is very good as well. In fact, it's the best of these three when it comes to recovering from bumps. The drivetrain has the most grunt, and it feels it too. There's easily enough punch here. Yes, the transmission can be a little bit busy at times and the engine can be a little bit noisy, but it does a really good job of harnessing the power that's available. And to top it all off, without a load in the back, it's really well sorted, so it's a clean sweep.
Next up, towing. Now, because these are lifestyle-focused models, we've gone out to get ourselves one of the biggest lifestyle-focused caravans that one of these things can manage to tow. It's an Avida Topaz multi-terrain caravan, a lifestyle-focused family van that will set you back just over 100 grand. This, clearly, is a very big van. It's a bloody big van. It's about 9 metres long and it's almost 3 tonnes when empty. So surely it's going to challenge our utes over our test loop. Now, all 3 of these utes are fitted with a tow bar and electric brake controller to ensure we can stop all that weight behind us. And we're also chucking on a set of trailer mirrors to help see what's behind us as well. Now obviously towing capacity plays a big part, and the Merc and Ford both have the maximum 3.5 tonne capacity for a brake trailer, which is the segment standard. The Toyota has a lower 3.2 tonne capacity, meaning we're close to the GVM threshold with this caravan in tow. The Mercedes felt like it was struggling the most with this much weight behind it, with more side to side and front to back wobbling evident from the moment we set off. The engine and gearbox didn't feel up to the task either, and overall it made for a pretty uneasy towing experience. The Hilux was better, feeling more settled and solid on the road, and its engine and gearbox were much more usable when it came to tackling hills and acceleration. The Ranger was simply the best at everything when it came to towing. It hauled the weight with no fuss, it felt settled at all times, and it made that 2,800 kilogram caravan feel like it was 2,000 kilograms. Out of this trio, it was the most relaxed and composed by far.
From fun to work, now it's time to test these utes in terms of their payload capabilities. There's a bit of variance between these 3 in terms of their payloads. The big surprise is that the Benz is easily the most work-ready, with the Ford close behind. The Toyota's payload has been heavily affected by its additional heavy-duty hardware. We aren't going to be pushing these utes to their payload limits, but no one spending this kind of money on their dual cab ute will. So we're going to put 500 kilos spread evenly across the base of each of these ute trays, and then we're going to go for a drive loop to see which is the most effortless workhorse. It was neck and neck between the Toyota and Mercedes when it came to running around with 500 kilos in the tray. The Toyota felt stiffer over bumps but rewarded with quicker steering in roundabouts and through corners, and its engine felt up to the task, but it was the slowest of these 3 utes when it came to getting things moving with the weight on board. It was also the noisiest. The Mercedes was the quickest when it came to in-gear acceleration, with its twin-turbo drivetrain offering up surprising pace. But its steering was slow, and while it had a lot of rear suspension sag to contend with because of the weight in the tub, it rode over bumps reasonably well, but didn't quite feel that comfortable with that much weight in the back compared to the other utes here. This was another simple decision for us. The Ranger was by far the most effortless when it came to driving with weight in the tray. From the way it steered to how it handled bumps and high-speed driving, there was no question which would be our pick if we had to choose one as a work ute as well as a high-end lifestyle truck. It was the Ranger.
They're all 4-wheel drive and bragging rights are at stake. So we've mapped out an off-road loop which we reckon is going to give us a perfect indication of how these things go in the rough stuff. Our off-road course consists of a mix of different terrain, from deep ruts to mud holes, patches of bush sand and some tight gravel tracks. Let's take a look at the specs of each of these 4x4 utes. All 3 have switch-on-the-fly 4-wheel drive systems, and each has hill descent control and a rear diff lock. On paper, you'd expect these 3 to perform pretty close to one another, but that wasn't the case. The X-Class held itself pretty well over fast gravel tracks thanks to its wider track and softer suspension. But it was when we hit the slow-going stuff that it started to reveal some shortcomings, and not just the fact that it was the only one that had a piece of plastic underbody protection come undone. While its tech chirps away quite effectively, it never feels quite right at home in the bush like the other 2. The Ranger, on the other hand, does feel right at home in the bush. It's an all-round package of techs, drivetrain and dynamics that make it a super comfortable off-road tourer and super capable in the roughest terrain you can throw at it. Now, it is no surprise that the Hilux is one of the better performers in this trio. It has that undeniable history of Toyota toughness, that go-anywhere ability that has attracted such a legion of fans. But what is a surprise is that it pips the Ford Ranger Wildtrak on our off-road loop. It just does everything better. It feels more dialed into the terrain, it's handling everything a bit more confidently, and it's a lot more composed. So it is the clear winner on our off-road loop.
So there you have it. We've put these 3 dual cab utes through their paces and we've figured out where they stand against one another. Crafty, tell us what you think about the X-Class.
Well, for me it was a real disappointment. You'd expect more from such a prestige brand, but right from the start there were issues with that Merc. I mean, things as basic as build quality and fit and finish. And then when we were driving it didn't feel stable when towing that caravan, and it was pretty workmanlike off-road as well. In this pack of 3, it was definitely third.
Okay, well we can't discount the fact that it does offer class-leading safety, and the same can't be said for the Hilux, which misses out on all the active safety stuff that these other 2 utes get. It's a big consideration for family buyers.
Yeah, well you're right, but it's a Hilux, so you're safe in assuming it's always tough, always reliable, and in that rugged X, guys, it looks the toughest of this mob. It towed well and it won that off-road loop hands down, Matty. Sure, it's still a harsh rider, but it sits a solid second behind our winner.
Yep, okay, but that leaves us with one ahead of the rest, obviously, the Ranger. And we were both surprised that we weren't surprised to see it win, I think.
It's safe, comfortable, it's a great thing to drive. It towed that 3,000 keg caravan with ease, like it was 2 tonnes, and it took on our 4-wheel drive section no worries. And it generally just feels like it's at another level compared to these other utes.
Yep, I'm 100% with you, Crafty. That Ranger is the best ute of these 3. At this price point, it's pretty hard to ignore. So there you have it. The winner of this 3-way ute test is the Ford Ranger Wildtrak. But did we get it right? Tell us what you think in the comments section below.